Well, Hush Hush Biz is super excited today to be welcoming Lee Naimo, uh, a very multi-skilled creative, I might say. My God, games expert, worked for Screen Australia, writer, muso, producer, comedian, who's joining um, an amazing production house called Grouse House, and who's going to be head of creative with the old Aunty Donna crowd. And with their production house, Haven't You Done Well Productions? And I've got to say, Lee, welcome. But my God, you are just so multifaceted. And, you must have started at a very early age, which we're really keen to, know more about. And plus this new position, which is really quite exciting for you to be head of creative. Because you're actually, from what I know, you're seeking new talent and as well as, inputting your signature with the guys and making comedy a bang bang hit show. Hello.
Thank- Hello, what an introduction. Yeah, when you put it like that, I guess I've done a few things, but that speaks to how old I'm getting, I guess.
Oh, you
Um,
don't look old. You look fabulous. What are you talking about?
well, thank you. Um, yeah, I guess I started at university doing theatre sports and musical comedy. Always something that I've kind of been drawn back to is comedy, and I think that it's just more than anything else, not to get too deep about it, but it's just something that audiences are craving more and more. And that feeling that comedy evokes, I think, is like nothing else. And it's such a broad genre as well. But yeah, got started at university, formed the Axis of Awesome with Jordan and Benny, and we kind of fell into this kind of online success about maybe 5 or so years ahead of the Aunty Donna team. Like I remember it was our fourth or fifth Edinburgh Fringe when they were over there doing their first.
Yeah,
So I kind of met them as like a generation or half a generation behind us in terms of their start,
yeah.
and then watched them kind of grow and blossom as I kind of finished up with Access and went over to Screen Australia, led up the online department, and then brought in games a few years ago. So yeah, it's kind of a weird, almost full circle back to that world. It's awesome.
It's crazy. It's crazy, even the games, like that is an incredibly big business games.
Mm, yeah.
So, to have been involved in that, to all these other areas, it's yeah, how do you do it all?
Great question. At Screen Australia, I've worked with amazing people. Like I've had such a great team, or two teams, the online and the games teams, working with me that have been huge support. And I live by the mantra of trying not to be everything to everybody. I think Screen Australia is seen often as, oh, you can fund everything, or you're the solution to all of our funding problems. And honestly, what Screen Oz does is um, not small, but just it's very specific and very clear. And there's a lot of projects that just don't fit into that realm. So sometimes having that conversation with people early and going, look, this is a great project, but it might not fit within the funding realm is the nicest and kindest thing to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess having been there for nearly 7 years at Screen Australia, I guess I learned how to navigate, the government side of things. It's been
Good
awesome
on
and
you.
a lot of work, but I'm also super excited to get back out in the industry and maybe not to have quite as much red tape around what I work on next.
Yeah, I hear you on that
We're
level.
very lucky in Australia to have Screen Australia and like government support, but
Yeah.
also it's a very specific kind of support. So there's other ways to create out there that work alongside or even in parallel with what Screen Australia is doing, and that's what I'm excited to explore at Having You Done Well in Grouse House.
Yeah, I know a lot of people just assume that screen agencies just give you money. Um,
Yeah, I mean we don't keep it a secret. In games we're dealing with like several hundred applications, and we might be able to fund like 20 or 30 of them. So you'd get like 220 applications and fund maybe 25. So there's a very low approval rate. So obviously the
Yeah,
while screen agencies do give out money in grant form, it's often incredibly competitive, and it can come down to the difference between, well, here's 10 great projects and another 10 great projects. Which ones are we able to
Yeah.
support?
Yeah.
Very fine market.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, well that's good information now. So
Sorry, I only finished last week, so I'm still very much with my government hat on. So you'll have to excuse me. I haven't even started it. Haven't you done well yet? So still,
um,
yeah, still feel very much like government
transition.
filled. Yeah.
Oh, oh, look, I'm sure you won't take long to, yeah, get back into this new seat, which tell us what's going to happen? What's this role going to endeavor to, produce for you?
What a great question. I don't know if I've got the full answer yet, but I'll tell you what I know, having not yet started. I think the bigger picture and the vision is that Aunty Donna have come up through the Australian comedy industry and have seen the real, as have I firsthand, the real lack of opportunities and the real narrowing of pathways for creatives. There's so much amazing talent in Australia
Yeah,
crying out for a home and that support and just that structure around them.
yeah,
That they saw that they had to essentially go overseas to America to pitch their show to Netflix before there was a Netflix Australia office to build their careers, and wanted to create that pathway for the next generation of comedians. So Grouse House was born with that in mind. It's currently, I guess, a YouTube channel as a primary output for it. The role that I understand that I'll be taking on is and I'll talk more about the screen side in a minute, but to spearhead that transition, and that, I guess, evolution of the YouTube channel. But as well as that, Grouse House has podcasts. They did a live show at South by Southwest Sydney last year. So what's the evolution of live shows for Grouse House? I've
right.
said to them that there should be video games that we're looking to produce and potentially commission. So how do we navigate that as well? So
Yeah,
all those elements, I guess. So rather than just being a kind of head of content, it's broader than just screen. It's all the creative elements of Grouse House and what that kind of brand looks like. Not the brand is the best word to use in terms of a comedy company, but it applies here in terms of how does Grouse House grow into something that is seen as a destination not just for creatives to pitch their work to and get it seen, but also for audiences to go to and know that, oh, this is a place I can go to, be it some kind of screen base or podcasts or live shows or community building, to find good content that is of a certain quality level and also probably a certain weirdness level.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it borders on black comedy.
Yeah, very, very like weird and absurd, which I think Australia does really well, right? Like we've got a real reputation for that kind of tone, which I think is great. I think Grass House leans into that. I think it's super weird, and part of the job will be finding what is the exact tone of Grass House as well. Is it pushing that weirdness out as far as it can go? Is it bringing up, is it balancing that with some more not accessible, but just other tones of comedy? And that's a journey I'm excited to see because I've kind of dabbled in both. I think often the more specific and niche you can go, the more appealing that can be to certain people, right? You want to create something that people don't just like. It's too easy to tune out of something that you like. We want to create something people deeply, deeply love, even if that's only a small percentage of the population. If they
Mm,
love it, they're going to champion that and come along for the ride.
yeah, absolutely. And with that, audiences, are clever in, ticking off what they do like. Um, you know, because, you're on a platform that can hit the global market. Uh,
Hmm.
what is the most popular, areas that, seems to be looked at most?
You mean on like the Grass House YouTube channel?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I was talking with Georgia Mappin, who's the managing director of Haven't You Done Well, the other day, and they were celebrating because that one of the clips from a project, the Screen Australia funded actually, called Hug the Sun, had just become the most watched clip on Grouse House. It was just an episode of the show where Mark Banana from Aunty Donna is playing this weird character, the Shadow Man. And
Yeah.
someone's taken a clip of the Shadow Man and put it on TikTok and Insta Reels, and they're literally uploading the same clip every day, and they've been doing so for months. And
Wow.
every kind of couple of weeks it'll go really viral, and just the exact same clip, nothing different about it. But
Yeah.
people are responding to this weird character. So now they're going, is there life in this character? Is there more that we can do with this weird Shadow Man character? So I
Yeah.
think it is that weirdness is resonating with people. They've also got shows like The Most Upsetting Guessing Game, which is a riff on like a Party Quirks improv game, which I think is great, extending that out to the most painful and horrific it can be for the guests on the show to really make that that experience as difficult as it can be for them. Which again, audiences are really responding to. They're doing, I think, 4 or 5, maybe even more of that show live during the Melbourne Comedy Festival. They sold them out last year during Comedy Festival. They're it's getting hundreds of thousands of views on the YouTube channel. So there's an appetite for that. Like I guess that like unashamed, unapologetic weirdness that is just people. I think weird for weird's sake is often doesn't work and people can see through it. But when audiences, when creatives are doing something weird that is their brand and their sense of humor, I think that really people respond to that really well. So there are
Yeah.
a couple of examples of what I know is kind of working well on the platform.
Yeah. Interesting. That's really interesting. So with that, what are the shows that you like at the moment that make you laugh?
Yeah, interesting.
Um,
I'm watching a lot of, and to go back to the screen content
Yeah.
strategy for Grouse House, a lot of Dropout TV. I don't know if you know Dropout, but it's evolved out of College Humor in the States. So
Yeah.
essentially, College Humor was one of the first kind of wave of like YouTube channels that became a business at the same kind of time as Funny or Die and a few of those others. And then it looked like it was going to go under at one point. A guy called the name of Sam Reich was like, I think he was head of content at um, College Humor, bought the brand and the name
Yeah.
and transitioned it into Dropout, which is a subscription service. So it's $6 a month.
Okay.
It's a lot of like unscripted, like game shows, improv shows, Dungeons and Dragons plays, stand-up comedy specials, a lot of unscripted, like lower budget, inexpensive comedy to produce, but at a high volume model. And they lean really heavily into social media. So I kind of got, found out about Dropout just through, Insta Reels coming up and some of the shows, very important people, this great kind of if you know, Thank God You're Here, the Australian TV show, a similar
Yeah.
kind of format to that.
Yeah.
Host interviews a comedian and improviser who's given, really quite elaborate hair and makeup and costume.
Yeah.
They don't know, and they have to invent a character on the spot. Just really, really great, funny, lean back comedy that doesn't demand anything of you. Like I
Yep.
love watching, a lot of the serious shows at the moment. We're watching Silo and Severance on Apple TV. Great stuff, but then you want those moments when you don't have to think comedy
Yeah.
isn't content isn't demanding something of you, and I think there's a real need for that in Australia at the moment. So for
Yeah.
me, it's a lot of Dropout. When I want to watch something funny, I'll go to Dropout and watch
Yeah.
an episode of Make Some Noise, which is a short form improv show, or Game Changer, which is this game show where every episode it's a different game show, so they have to invent a new game show every episode. It's quite like
Yeah.
they've really set themselves a high challenge, but
Yeah.
yeah, that model of Dropout is something that we're looking to potentially emulate for Grouse House as well. How do we build something that is sustainable? And obviously, it's a hard ask to ask audiences to part with more money for another streaming service in this day and age. I
Oh,
think if the price point's right and the content is niche enough, you look at examples like Shudder, which is Amazon's horror. I think it's Amazon, or maybe it's
yeah.
AMC's horror specific
AMC, I
channel.
think it is.
Yeah, it's
AMC.
AMC. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry,
Yep.
and other really niche platforms. It's like, well, where's the Australian niche comedy platform? And
Yes.
I'm not aware of one. So
Yeah.
you can make something good enough and build enough of a back catalogue of content. I do think there's an appetite for it, and Dropout kind of proves that in terms of
Yep.
the model that
Yep.
building.
Oh, absolutely. I think in our times, especially after COVID, people want to be lightly entertained nowadays. They don't want the Grim Reaper showing up.
Or
Getting
if they do,
in
they
real
want
life.
that they want that in a really specific, like high budget way. I think, like honestly, it's very low volume, but Apple TV stuff Apple TV Plus really good.
Oh,
But
I
you want to
agree.
sit down and like tune in for that, as opposed to when you're on your phone scrolling for something.
Yeah,
Totally agree. You want something that escapism that makes you feel good and forget about the world at the moment.
absolutely. I got addicted to, there's the thriller spy thing, Slow Horses. Have you watched
Oh
that?
yeah, yeah. I've seen a few
Oh,
episodes. It's amazing.
it is so well written, and it's just Gary Oldman's character in that is just It's like every actor's dream, I think.
Yeah. And so Seesaw, who make that, I'm pretty sure that they're at least part Australian, like they've got a Australian owned, right? So not to segue back to the job or anything, but I think it's amazing to have Australia has companies like Seesaw that are doing, high end prestige,
Yeah,
Apple TV Plus level,
yeah,
tens of millions of dollars per episode drama. And
yeah,
then companies like Haven't You Done Well or Glitch TV, Glitch Productions, who are making like online animations in this new model where building an ecosystem for the work. It's not just the content that brings in the money, it's the podcast and the Patreon and the live shows and the merchandise and the commercial arm. Like that, I think is there's room for those businesses as well, which is one of the things I'm excited to join. Haven't You Done Well? Is the risks that we can take and go, well, let's build Grouse House into a subscription service and see how we can support that with other areas of the business
yeah,
while it grows and giving it that room to grow.
yeah. That's it's exciting. What you've got on the table already, and and I'm sure, Lee, you're going to be the one to, obviously drive this, and with your fellow members behind you and teamed up. So, it's got an exciting future for you, So this is yeah, very much something that, did you know this was going to come into your life? Or
No, I was kind of ready for the next chapter in terms of career. Like, nearly 7 years at Screen Australia and growing it from when I started the online department was myself and one other, Elise Adams. We were this kind of little satellite part of the agency floating around, kind of attached to the film and TV team, but doing our own thing.
yeah,
And over the last 7 years to have grown that to the online team with 3 members, the games team with 4 members, like building it out in that way has been hugely satisfying. But I just had come to the end of my time there in terms of wanting the next challenge. So
yeah.
no, it came about through a conversation with Georgia and Max from Haven't You Done Well, just letting them know that I was, on the lookout for the next thing and had
Mm.
been saying the same thing to a few different people and kind of just going, I like your work. Like I'm genuinely a fan of what Aunty Donna and Haven't You Done Well are doing. Like I watch Grouse House's content and I mean, I've funded a bunch of it, but there's a bunch of stuff like the Most Upsetting Guessing Game that Green Australia hasn't supported. It doesn't, like, again, it doesn't fit within our remit. It's unscripted. It's kind of a game show or a shiny floor show. I
Mm.
just watch it because I like it. Whenever there's a new Aunty Donna sketch, I'm excited to to watch it. So for them to respond in the way they did and to go, oh, there's potentially a room for someone like you to come in and grow Grouse House was just the start of a conversation. And it felt like a conversation rather than a job interview. It felt like we were just sitting down and very early on realized we're on the exact same page here in terms of what we've seen and the way we see the industry going. Just
Yeah.
felt really right. And that was like late last year, and the conversation kind of evolved to the point where they were able to come to the table and go, "Do you want to come and join the company?" So yeah, it felt really right, but it wasn't anything that I went, "Oh, there's a job out. I'm gonna apply for that job." Like it felt very organic and natural to join them.
Best way. Best way. The energy's just met up and it's just
Yes,
going to be
exactly.
great. Well, you're going to be a very busy man. And, and
I think so. I think if the Australian comedians are watching this, come and chat to me. Like I've
yes.
been lucky enough to work with a lot of Australian comedians. I want to hear your ideas for content and how we can grow that together.
Oh, look, I'll be directly sending it to a lot of my contacts, for sure. And I want to stay in touch with you for, in terms of you growing, with this company. So I'm just so excited for you, Lee, and we really thank you for your time today. And congratulations, on this wonderful new role.
Thank you so
So
much. Thanks for chatting to me. Really interesting.
thank you. Thank you. All the best for now.
Thank you. Speak
Bye.
soon. Okay, bye.